Welcome to my podcast, where we are going to talk about a lifestyle with dogs and throw in a few life lessons along the way. Whether you're a hound hunter, bird dog enthusiast, running setters, pointers, retrievers, or a flat-out running dog junkie, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Heath Hyatt, a certified law enforcement canine trainer with over 3 decades of personal and professional training and handling experience. It's time for me to pay it forward. So grab your leads, lace up those boots, and come and join me on this lifelong process of teaching, training, and learning. Are you looking to unlock your dog's full potential and give them the best nutrition possible for peak performance? Then look no further. Inukshuk has what you're looking for. Inukshuk's nutrient-dense formulas are crafted to keep your dog's energy high and performance top-notch. Packed with premium proteins and essential fats, Inukshuk delivers the balanced nutrition your dog needs to thrive. From hunting dogs to police canines, Inukshuk is trusted by professionals. Give your dog the power of peak performance with Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. Welcome to another episode of What's Up Wednesday, the podcast for every hunter who's ever followed a good-nosed hound through the woods. I'm Heath Hyatt, your host, and each week we dive into tips, tricks, tactics to turn your hound into a hunting machine. Whether you're just getting started or you've logged thousands of miles following your pack, there's always something here for you. So let's get this episode in motion. Over the last 2 episodes, we have talked about things that everybody knows and everybody deals with, right? We talked about pack versus packing. We've talked about trash breaking, running those hounds, what a headache it is. Well, this week, I have actually got to tell you about a hunt where I actually implemented both of those podcasts together in one hunt. And I would say that all of you guys do this all the time. But this one came together. And as I was walking out of the woods, I'm like, we just talked about this. We literally just talked about this. So I'm going to break it down for you. So I run a little late this morning, the morning that this happened. Got up on the mountain. There was another group that was hunting. It was in the area that I was headed to. So I took a different direction. I went out the mountain, rigged around, didn't do anything. And I'm like, you know what? I normally don't go to this one area, and there's a reason why. And I was like, I'm just going to go over there and check it out. It's not going to hurt anything, right? So I beat feet to this area, put the dogs back up, and I'm rigging up the road, and I see 3 deer standing about 20 yards off to my left. Now, I've got 4 dogs on the top of the truck. Typically, I don't run 4 dogs up. I usually like to have 2. Sometimes I'll put 3 if I'm running a young dog. But this year, I have been more apt to put more dogs up. And I've got, I was hunting the 4-year-olds, the 3-year-olds, and I had a 2-year-old with me. So anyway, that's what I did. I pulled up beside the deer, not a peep. Remember, we've talked about this, not a peep. And I'm like, I'm just going to do a little groundwork, right? When you talk about training and we talk about stuff, and I teach my guys this all the time in the canine world, like it's about context. It's about when you set that dog up, he understands the task at hand because of the way you've set him up. So my dogs are on top of the truck, and deer's not acceptable, right? So I put one of my 3-year-olds down and a 4-year-old down. Oh, well, that's all I had, actually. And the 4-year-old went off the back of the truck hit the edge of the ditch line and turned and like literally come right back up and got on the tailgate, jumped right back up on the box. Didn't even give it a second thought. The 3-year-old got down, and we want to talk about timing here, right? We got to talk about this. She didn't open, but her body language was excited, which means, let me give you a visual. Her whole body went into motion from her shoulders down to her tail. You can see the dog's wagging. It looks like an alligator coming through the swamp, right? You can see that body, back and forth. Tail comes up and nose starts popping. She's working the air. I know she's taking in the scent. The deer they just went 50 yards by then into the wood line. They didn't see him. Okay, I just want to preface that. They didn't see him. But her body language told me, I'm reading her body language, that she likes this. She likes that odor. It made her excited. So on a very low stem, I applied pressure, and I held it for just a little extra, very low pressure. Let me reiterate that. I was not running AEP through her or whatever power company you guys use. Just low stem. That was it. She comes, she gets back up on the truck, put her back up on the truck, and we drive on. So we go over top of the mountain, and we work our way down through the little draws and hollows, and we come down to a creek, cross the creek, and nothing. And I'm like, well, okay. So as I start pulling the other side, which is the south side, I went 3 or 4 turns, curves, not even half a mile. Now I'm driving very slow. I've actually got my truck pulled down in first gear. Okay. And I'm just creeping. And we're going to go into a whole nother podcast about this, but we're not going to talk about it right now. It'll be for the later episodes. You're going to have to tune back in. So I'm creeping up through there, and I get into this curve, and it's got some sand in the road. And I'm looking, like I got my head hanging out the window. I look like the dogs myself. I got my head hanging out the window, and I'm looking, and I'm like, well, there's a bear track. Dogs didn't make a peep. So I stopped the truck, I got out, and I did a little man tracking here. So man tracking is visual, okay? So one of the things that we do when we're tracking man is we want to do a comparison. I want to see how fresh that track is. I want to know how old that track is. So I get out, and I literally put my boot track, boom, right in the sand right beside this track. And I move my boot, and I'm like, that track can't be that old. Like, it was definitely made last night, like probably later in the night, early morning. So let me say after 12. Okay. So, okay. Well, about that time, I did have Spook with me, but I did not turn him loose because he got injured a couple days before. So I did not turn him loose. And he opened one time. But I'm like, is he opening because I'm standing here, or is he actually smelling this? So I get the 3-year-old down because she has been one of my more vocal dogs on the track. Okay. So I put her down, and she gets down, she hits the grass. And at this point, I can see where the grass had laid over. Okay. It's up in the day. It's 8:30, 9 o'clock maybe. Yeah, let's just say it's 9 o'clock. And I can see the grass pushed over. So I'm like, okay, I know it went this way. Like, I can see this. I put her down. She goes down through there about 30, 40 yards, gives me a couple short barks, just, oh, okay. So I put the 4-year-old down. I put Hart down. and that was Attica that I put my 8-liter I put down. Well, Hart goes down through there. She opens one time, and I'm like, okay, well, this track's a little bit better than I thought. So I put Kate in. Kate's my 6-year-old. And Attica starts to open. So I turned a 2-year-old Briggs, my B-litter, down. So I've got 4 dogs down. And then I go ahead and get one of my C-litters out. So I got the A's and the B's and the C's going. Well, the C-litter is mouthy. She's barking behind the dogs. So she's going down through there. Yo, 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 yo. And I'm like, no. So I had to put Spook in the box, get him to be quiet, shut my box up, and I've got 5 dogs down. And they make a loop down through this timber cut. They come back up through the edge of it, and they come back towards the road. Well, all right, guys, I made a mistake here. I overpacked a track that was not runnable. Okay? So I'm like, as soon as I can get my hands on the pup, I'm getting her up because she's way mouthy. She's gonna mess this up. And just so happens I pull around two more curves. The dog come right up underneath the road. I'm able to grab her. And while I'm there, I give him one little holler out, and I got B. I got the C and the B back. Well, then Attica comes back up there. She heard the truck coming. She pulled up to me, so I grabbed her. So I got Kate and Hart down. Hart made a big loop right there where I was at, and Kate kind of stayed the course. Never said a word. And Hart finally got back down on the track where they had turned to come up towards the road. She goes back down in there, and she just opened it here and there. So they work this thing out for about 45 minutes to an hour. And they go down, they cross another road, a locked road. You can't drive it, you can walk it. They cross another road. They made a loop in there. The dogs split. And I'm like, yeah, well, it is what it is, right? It's up in the morning. Ain't nothing I can do about it. It's on them. Well, they come back across the road and get down in some of the hollers there where it's shaded. Okay, so when they crossed the road, they got up on the ridge where the sun was out. And we talk about how that affects scent. Anyway, they come back. They end up back together. And now I can hear this. Like, I'm in a valley where I can hear everything that's going on. And at 1.1 miles from where I was sitting, so that's by the crow flies, right? Not the track that they actually ran. I hear Kate yodel. Yo, yo, yo. I'm like, all right, it's either jumped or getting ready to be jumped. Well, then she yodeled again. And when she yodeled that second time, they started putting the screws to it. They got it tightened down, and they were moving. And they run around the mountain, and I lost them. So I started around the other side, and my buddies were over there, and they said they was turning. They were coming towards them, but they made a loop and went up the mountain and turned and was coming back towards me. So I turned around, come back across the mountain, get right back over to where I can hear them, where I was listening to them when they jumped. And they come right back in here, and they're still a mile away. I can hear them really good. Like, I can hear them. And I debated on packing a dog to them. I'm like, that's a long way to pack. And when you pack that far, they're not going to be where they was at. Like, it's going to take that dog to get through that country. It's going to take him, 10, 15 minutes to get there, 10 minutes. And by then, it's who knows where they're at. Well, they started to pull. So I just go ahead and I try to get up in front of them. And they went about halfway up, and they turn and they come back off the mountain. And they went right back into where they jumped and treed. So we ended up driving around and walking into them, and had a nice healthy sow bear treed. But why I tell you this, why I'm telling you this story. So we talked about packing. I overloaded a track that I immediately recognized my dog was given too much mouth to start with, barking excitedly. She's normally not a battler, so I think just the excitement itself got her caught up, and she was mouthing a little bit more. And the puppy doubled that. Okay, so I doubled down on that fiasco. But I was able to recover, get the dogs caught up, and the other two dogs did a really good job. I mean, I would have to brag on them. They did a phenomenal job trailing that up where they were at and catching it by themselves. Two dogs, and running it. They, like I said, they trailed it 45 minutes to an hour, and they run it about the same. So let's just say a 2-hour hunt. And time it was actually one. They were actually 1 mile exactly from the road where I could actually cut into them and walk into where they were treed at. So it took us a few minutes to get in there, but we did. But I wanted to talk about a training issue. That's what we love to do, is we talk about training. And I've always told you guys, I try to be very upfront and honest with my dogs. And I tell you a lot that my dogs are rigging bear, not rigging tracks, right? Usually if my dogs rig, they'll find it. Now, like I said, it may be 2, 3, 4, 5. I've had them go up to 500 yards and get after one. But most of the time it's a bear. It's not a track. But they didn't open on this, and I seen it. So as I'm walking out, I'm kind of replaying this through my head. And I remember a conversation that Dale Cameron told me. Dale Cameron told me that he never rigged his dogs until they could catch game on their own. And then at that point, he would start rigging them. And here was his theory. Is the dog's got to be able to trail before he can do anything else. And whether we agree or disagree, that was his theory. And very seldom, especially with the bear population, are my dogs trailing. Very seldom. And that just proved right there that they can. They're able to. They did. I can't tell you how old that track was. I don't know. I would say, and again, it's dry. I can tell you right here that morning. Hold on, I'll tell you exactly, because I write it down, exactly what the temperature was. It was cool. Actually, it was cooler that morning. And I'm scrolling through here to look at my notes. So just give me a second. Nope. Okay, here we go. It was 49 degrees, 87% humidity. So not horrible tracking conditions, except we have not had rain in, I've talked to several guys around me. I mean, it's like a dust bowl. It's like a dust bowl. We've not had any rain for a while. We had a passing shower, and when I say a shower, like a 3-minute sprinkle the other day, but we've not had any rain, and that makes the trailing conditions super tough. But anyway, that just proved to me that my dogs can do it. And I was walking out and thinking about the conversation that Dale and I had, and I think what I'm going to do, my sea litter, they love to ride the top of the truck. I've had them up there, but I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna back up with them a little bit. I'm gonna regroup, and when our coon season comes in, I'm gonna purposely take these dogs out and coon hunt them and get them trailing a little bit, and hopefully they'll get the trailing and train them from coon. They've been on some bear now. Chief's been on plenty right now. Like he's been on enough to know. I'm not going to say plenty, but enough to know. Cass is still learning, but I'm going to back up with them and change the way I do things with them, to not to prove a point, but to actually test a theory. Okay? If this is correct and this works and they're tracking and trailing, then they should be able to rig tracks and not just the bear. Where, and I can go back and go through this whole array of things. When I was training Spook and Kate, at first I didn't have a dog to go with them. So I was rigging them, and when they would bark one time, I was putting them down, and they were bringing bear out. So that was the way I trained them. Nothing, don't take anything away from them, not giving them anything, but that was the training method that was used. And I see that a lot with them. But that was on me. That's not on them. Doesn't mean the dogs aren't capable of doing it, doesn't mean anything else. But the way that I trained them set them up. But as soon as I took them off the truck, and Kate was one of them, and put them down where that bear had crossed, went right to work. So it's never too late to change or switch up what you're doing. And that's exactly what I plan on doing, is switching it up and taking a little bit extra time and redoing that. But that hunt alone, you see how many things I got to work on some deer. And again, never open, never often to run it. But the body language told me that, it's like when you drive by the steakhouse, right? When you go by the Texas Roadhouse, driving down the road, and you drive by the Texas Roadhouse, and you're like, "Ooh, man, I smell that steak. Boy, that smells good." That's what her body language was telling me, is that, I'm not going to stop and grab a steak, but her body language told me she sure did think a lot more of that odor than I wanted her to think of it. Small correction, boom, done, no problems. Got back up on the truck, hooked her up, and run on. And then we go over. I see a track, dogs don't open, dogs were trailing, I overpacked. It was jam-packed that day. And I know that we're doing a 30-minute session here, but a lot of stuff went into that hunting day. And I almost messed that up by turning too many dogs loose, because Attica was given a little bit more mouth than she should have been. But on the way out, like I said, I was in an area that I typically don't hunt. I mean, I've hunted it over the years, but it's not somewhere that I go on a daily basis. In fact, it's probably been a couple of years since I've been in there. But on the way out, I was walking back out this old, mangled logging road. And you know how you can smell something and it brings you back to a memory? You smell your grandmother's biscuits cooking. And every time you smell biscuits, it brings that memory back. Or you see something, or you taste something that brings a memory back. Well, I was walking back down this logging road back to the truck, and it hit me like I ran into a wall. I actually got chill bumps. And if you've ever had that vivid memory, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I stopped, and I look up this holler, and I'm like, it was like it was yesterday. September 6th, 1998. September 6th, 1998. I was in that area, in that hollow, with my old Frosty dog. And he was a young dog at the time. And I had been hunting with a gentleman by the name of C.L. Bartlett. And at that point in time, I'm still trying to find my way. Like, I had him, he was young. I'm still learning. The dog knew a lot more than I did. But CO let me tag along that day, and we ended up running a bear over into that country, and we treed in that hollow, exactly in the hollow that I'm standing in. And just talking about it is actually giving me chills. The array of emotions that caught me at that very moment. I can still see Frosty. There was a tree laid down, a tree that had fell over, and Frosty was standing on that tree with his back feet and his front feet up on top on the tree that the bear was in. And Frosty's standing out above all the other dogs. Now, Frosty was a big dog. In running shape, he was about 80, 85, 80, 86, 87 pounds. But he stood out like a statue in that hollow, standing on that log with his front feet on the tree. And it's been 27 years since I've been in there, and I could see him and hear him bawling at that tree. And I haven't been in that place in years. But it hit me like a ton of bricks. And these dogs, these old hounds, bring us some of our most vivid memories that we have, or I have. I can speak for myself because I know how I feel about it and how it draws me. Like it draws me in. But that hunt covered both of our last 2 weeks' podcasts, and it brought back a memory for me that I'll never forget. Like I said, standing there in the middle of that logging road, looking up that hollow, I could have probably walked up and took you to the tree that he was actually treed in, because that's how real it was. It took me back. So anyway, that's a wrap on those 2 podcasts. And I hope you guys are using it. I hope you guys are making the best of it. You know, we only got a week or so. Yeah, we've only got a week or so left of our training season. So that's a wrap for this week's episode of What's Up Wednesday. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in and walking the trail with me. If you got something out of today's episode, be sure to like it, share it with a fellow hunter, and leave a review on Apple or W. And until next time, we'll see you at the tree with old Frosty.
Tailgate drops before the light, coolers packed and the rig sitting right, tracking collars charged, beeping green, boots in the bed and the rifle's clean. Dog box rattling, engines hum, we're chasing bear till the day is done. Old ring barking like he knows what's near, nose to the wind, tail full of cheer. From the Virginia mountains to the Carolina clay, we're burning fuel and miles each day. Every turn's another tale, through mountain mist and paper trails. We see the sunset red in Tennessee, rise through the fog in old WV. North Carolina's pines echo loud with the cry of a hard-run hound. New York forest, Maine's deep snow, Vermont valleys where the black bears go. Truck keeps rolling, wheels don't care. We're chasing daylight, chasing bear. Rest stops few, the roads are long, but the fire in our hearts still burns strong. Wisconsin mornings cutting crisp and clear, Canada's wildwoods drawing near. Still got states we ain't run, but that hound dog fever won't let us chasing bear. Gas station coffee, Alpha XL on the dash. Another back road, another bear track. Friends made fast and stories told slow. Under stars where only hunters go. We see the sunrise gold in Canadian air, and it sets on a trail down in Appalachia. Packing steel and leather, grit and care. We're built for the road and chasing bear. So load the dogs and slam the gate. There's a trail ahead, we won't be late. From dawn to dusk, we're always there. Chasing daylight, chasing them bears.